Hey guys, in this lecture, we're going to talk about how to make a works cited page and how to incorporate in-text citations into your body paragraphs. So first, let's start with works cited pages. Why are they important? So first and foremost, it's an important aspect of MLA format. We talked about that in a previous lecture. But honestly, most importantly, it helps you avoid plagiarism, right? In your essays, you are going to be incorporating summaries and direct quotations from outside sources, whether that's an article, an essay, a book that we're reading, whatever, but you're incorporating somebody else's ideas, somebody else's words, right? So when we do that, it's very important that we give credit to the original author, right? This is where a works cited page comes in. It also provides your reader with all the needed information for them to find the same quoted or summarized material. So let's say I'm reading your essay and I read a quote that you've included from Brene Brown's book, and I'm like, wow, that sounded really interesting, or I don't really remember her talking about that, and I would like to go back in the book and read more about it. I should be able to look at your works cited page and know exactly where to look, what book it is, who wrote it, the volume, the edition, the page number, all of that good stuff. So that's a really important reason that we use a works cited page, that we create those, is to make sure our reader has all the information needed should they want to get more information or to go back and reread the material that you included in your essay. It also just acknowledges original ideas, right? That kind of goes back to the plagiarism thing. Not your ideas. You want to make sure that you are giving credit to the original author. What a works cited page actually is it's a comprehensive list of all sources you used in your essay. So anytime you summarize or quote an outside source, it should be listed on your works cited page. So comprehensive meaning all. Any source you used, it will be there. It is always the very last page of your essay, no matter what. It also needs to be its own page. So let's say your essay, it bleeds onto page 7 with 2 words. Okay, there's only 2 words on page 7. Your works cited page should start on page 8. So even if there's just 2 words on that page, it doesn't matter. Your works cited page needs to be 100% its own page. A tip for you when you are creating your works cited page. Let's say you are, rolling onto a new page. Let's say you're halfway down page 4. Instead of just pressing the enter button until you get to a new page, you need to insert a page break. When you just press the enter button to get to a new page, it might look correct on your end, but when you export it into a PDF or you submit it on Canvas, the formatting gets completely messed up. So what you might see on your end is your works cited page starting on its own page, but what I see is your works cited page starting on the exact same page as the last page of your actual essay of where your conclusion ends, basically. So again, don't just press enter to get to a new page. You have to insert a page break. If you don't know how to do that, please let me know and I can show you, no problem. It's super easy. It's just a click of a button, basically. You just have to know where the button is. Different citations, there are different citations for different types of works. So a poem has a certain citation format, which would be different than how you would cite a novel, which is different than how you would cite an essay that you read in a scholarly journal. Okay, so tons and tons and tons of different citation formats, most of which you probably will never use. I mean, there's a specific citation format for the Bible, for different types of Bibles, for a podcast, for a YouTube video. I mean, there's literally one for everything. A billboard, all of those exist. You're probably never going to cite a billboard in your essay, so you'll probably never use that. But despite all of these different type of format or citation formats, there are multiple elements that are usually included in every single type. These are them. So normally it has an author. If there is an author to the source you're using, the citation will include the author's name, the title of the work, right? What is the source called that you incorporated into your paper? Publication information. So, like, what publishing house published it? When was it published? Where? Like New York City, California, all that good information. And it will also include a URL and a DOI. I'm sure most of us have probably heard of a URL before. It's basically like when you're on a website, in the search bar, it has like https www dot and then all this information. That's a URL. Basically a link to the web page. A DOI is the same thing, but it's for articles and essays that you get from a library database. The reason that it's different from a URL is a URL means that this site that you are linking it's accessible to the public. Whereas an article from a database from the IVC library databases, not everybody has access to that, right? Like if you're not a student or a teacher at Irvine Valley College, you wouldn't have access to this article necessarily. So a DOI, it looks exactly the same as a URL pretty much, but it's basically the URL for articles and essays that are not accessible to the public. Here is a list of the most commonly used MLA citation formats. This document is uploaded for you to access in this week's Canvas module. So this is what I always want you to come back to when you're creating your works cited page to make sure that the actual individual citations are correct. So a bunch of different types of citations here. Again, not even anywhere close to all the citations that are out there, but these are the ones that are just like most commonly used. So a basic book with one author, two authors, a specific edition, an anthology in its entirety, if you're citing just one work with an anthology, all these good things. A page on a website with an author and without an author. These two you're going to use probably pretty frequently. Scholarly article accessed from a database. I don't expect you to memorize these templates whatsoever, okay? I don't have these templates memorized for the most part, right? You can always just go back and check the templates. There's no problem with that. In addition, I know a lot of people use EasyBib, okay, to create works cited pages for you. I don't have a problem with that, okay? I used EasyBib when I was a student, so anything that I did, I don't expect you not to do, right? Here's the catch, though. When you do create a citation from EasyBib, 9 out of 10 times, it's incorrect, okay? It might, for the most part, be correct, but there are always errors, okay? Whether that be there's a comma where a period should be, what should be italicized isn't, whatever. There's usually errors when you use EasyBib, okay? So I don't have a problem with you using it. However, when you do, please always come back and check the templates, okay? Make sure that what EasyBib spit out at you is correct, okay? I feel like that's pretty fair of me to ask of you. Most instructors say, no way, absolutely not, you cannot use EasyBib. I don't have a problem with you doing it as long as you're aware that most times what it gives you is not 100% correct. And so I'm giving you the template, so I do expect you to always come back and double check that your citation is correct based on the template. Okay, so we're going to back out a little bit away from the individual citations, and I want you to take a look at a works cited page as a whole and what the characteristics are. So first, it has to have a title. Like your essay has to have a title, your works cited page also needs a title. Good news is you don't have to be creative and, make it up. There is only one title. The title should be works cited, not works cited. So notice there is an S at the end of works. So because you are citing multiple sources in your paper, you are citing multiple works. Each individual source is an individual work. So it is works cited. These are the works that I cited in my source. So works cited page, it's a works cited page, not a works cited page, okay? But also notice that the title isn't works cited page. It's just works cited, okay? That's it. No slash, no dash, nothing like that. Just works cited. Those two words are your title. That's it. They're not bold. They're not underlined. They're not italicized. Just regular font, okay? Your citations should all be organized alphabetically. So if you have last name Brown and last name Salinger, Brene Brown's citation is going to come first because B comes before S, right? So all of your citations should be listed and organized alphabetically. Please also know that numbers come before letters in alphabetical format, okay? In alphabetical order, okay? So let's say you are citing an article that doesn't have an author, and the name of the article is 123 Look at Me. That would come before Brene Brown because the number 1 would come before the letter B in alphabetical order. Hopefully that makes sense. In a second, I'm going to show you like what a works cited page looks like. So hopefully when you see it visually, it'll make more sense to you. But you need to know that the title is works cited, that it is organized alphabetically, and it also uses a hanging indent. This is probably a new term for you. So hanging indent is essentially the opposite of a normal indent. So think of when you start a paragraph. You're typing your first paragraph for your essay. The first line of a paragraph is normally indented, right? We know that that's just like standard essay format, right? The first line of an essay is indented. This is the opposite. A hanging indent is where the first line is not indented, and if the citation spills over more than one line, all of the lines after the first one are indented. Okay, so I know that's confusing, like being explained out loud, but let me show you what this actually looks like. Here are a few examples of citations that spill over more than one line and use a hanging indent. So notice these are 3 different citations. The first line of each citation is all the way to the left, justified, but once it spills on to the second line, then it is indented 0.5 inches. If any of these went on to a third line, it would be lined up with the second line. Okay, so it doesn't like continuously become more indented. It's just any line after the first line in a citation is indented 0.5 inches. So hopefully with this visual, it makes a little bit more sense to you. Let me pause and show you how to actually use a hanging indent. So I'm going to show you how to do it on Microsoft Word, and I will also show you how to do it on Google Docs. It's basically the same, just a little bit different. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. All right, I'm going to start by showing you how to do a hanging indent on Microsoft Word. So this right here is one citation. This is one source, and because it is longer than just this one line, I have to use the hanging indent. So what I would do is highlight the whole thing. Up here in the search bar, type for paragraph options. Mine is already right here because I recently searched it, so you're going to click on that. Notice here, all of this is under indentation. This is what you're going to want to look for. So right here it says special indentation. Go ahead and click hanging. And then the indentation option before text, instead of 0, you want it to be 0.5. So once you've changed those two things, all you have to do is press OK, and it does it for you. So notice how this is, again, one citation, and once it goes over the first line, everything is indented 0.5 inches, okay? I also want you to notice that everything is still double spaced. All of the MLA format rules that apply to your essay, like 12-point font, Times New Roman, double spaced, all of those things still apply. So make sure that your font and your spacing matches the rest of your essay here in your works cited page. Moving on to a Google Doc. This is the exact same citation that I showed you before. One citation, one source. Because it spills over onto more than one line, we have to use the hanging indent. So same deal. Go ahead and highlight it. And then up here where it says format, click on that. And then go down here to the option align and indent. Go over to this new menu that pops up. And then there will be this indentation options. Go ahead and click hanging indent, 0.5. Apply, and it does it for you, okay? Super easy. Again, like it's not hard to do a works cited, to create a hanging indent. You just have to know which buttons to press. If you use a word processor outside of Google Docs or outside of Microsoft Word, you can still do it. I'm assuming that you guys are using one of these two, so these are the only two I'm going to show you. But if you are using something else, like maybe Pages, I don't know, and you can't figure it out, let me know and we can try to figure it out together. And here's an example of an entire works cited page, right? So we still have our header, our last name, and our page number, right? That'll just continue from the rest of your essay. We have our title, it's centered, it says works cited, not works cited page, not works cited, just works cited, that's it. Everything is in alphabetical order based on the first part of the citation, okay? And it also has the hanging indent. So take a look at this if you're ever confused or like wondering if your works cited page is correct. You can always come back here and take a look. I've also posted this in this week's Canvas module, so you can look at it there as well. So that's it on works cited pages. I know that was a lot of information. Hopefully you're not too overwhelmed. If you are, this is a really good place to pause, take a break, get some water, a snack, whatever, walk around for a few minutes. And then when you're ready, go ahead and press play again, and we'll talk about in-text citations. All right, last thing we're talking about in this lecture are in-text citations. So these are closely related to works cited pages, so you kind of have to know about works cited pages first before in-text citations. So let's go ahead and get into this. So in-text citations, these are often referred to as parenthetical citations. It's what is included in the parentheses in the body paragraph, in the body of your essay that identifies your source and directs your reader to your works cited page. Okay, so anytime you summarize a source in your essay or you include a direct quotation in your essay, you have to include an in-text citation, right? That's part of avoiding plagiarism. So what goes in the parentheses is a couple things. So first, it's the first item in the works cited page citation and the page number that your quote can be found on. So the first item in the works cited page citation is 9 out of 10 times the last name of the author. If you remember those templates I had showed you, most of the time, the source has an author, and the first thing that's listed in the citation on the works cited page is the author's last name. So 9 out of 10 times, what goes in the in-text citation is the author's last name and the page number that your quote can be found on. Here is an example. So the quote is, "A lot of the dread people feel about writing, though, is connected with how writing is taught." And then in the parentheses, in the in-text citation, is Weinstock 2. So what that indicates is that the last name of the author of the source where this quote came from is Weinstock, and that within the source, this quote can be found on page 2, okay? Notice that there is no comma in between the last name and the page number. It's not Weinstock PG period or Weinstock page and then the number. It is simply the last name, space in between, and then the page number. Also, I want you to notice where the period is in this example. Punctuation, when you are incorporating an in-text citation in the sentence, punctuation will always come after the citation, okay? Students often make the mistake, they'll put the period at the end of the quote. So here they would do with how writing is taught, period, end the quote, and then the citation. That is incorrect. When your sentence is using an in-text citation, the ending punctuation comes after the citation. Hopefully that makes sense. There are some variations to the citations, things that differ from what I just said. So if there is no page number in the source that you are citing, then you just don't put a page number, right? This often happens when you're citing an article from a website. Think about it. Let's say you are reading an article from Vogue, okay, and you want to incorporate a quote or a summary of something that's said in the article into your essay. When you're scrolling on a website, there are no page numbers, right? It's just kind of like an endless scroll. Yeah, there's no page numbers. If that's the case, then you just wouldn't put a page number. You always want to keep in mind the original source. And what I mean by this is, let's use this same example. You are using an article from Vogue, and let's say you save it as a PDF to read it later to incorporate into your essay. Normally, when we incorporate something into a PDF, the PDF will give it page numbers when it originally did not happen. If that's the case, if the original source did not have page numbers, even if the PDF version does, then you do not include a page number. If the original source did not have a page number in its original setting, then you don't include a page number in the in-text citation, okay? Additionally, if you state the author's name when you're introducing your quote in your signal phrase, you don't have to say it again in the citation. So this is the same example from the previous slide, but phrased a little bit differently. According to Jeffrey Weinstock, a lot of the dread people feel about writing, though, is connected with how writing is taught. So here, I have a signal phrase, according to Jeffrey Weinstock. And so because I said the author's name in the signal phrase, I do not have to repeat it in the in-text citation, okay? If you state the author's name and there is no page number, then you do not have to include an in-text citation at all because there's nothing left to include, right? You would have included the author's last name and the page number, but if you said the author's last name, great, you kind of checked that box off. And if there is no page number, then there's nothing left to include in the in-text citation. What students tend to do is they'll just kind of skip to the next thing, the next item that's listed in the works cited page citation, which is the source name, and they'll include that instead. You do not have to do that. You do not have to replace it. If you have stated the author's last name and the author's last name is what is the first item listed in the works cited page citation, and there's no page number, then there is nothing else to include in the in-text citation, so you just wouldn't have one. If that's the case, remember back on this slide, we pointed out how punctuation comes after the in-text citation. If there is no in-text citation, then the period would come at the end of the quote. So let's imagine this example, there is no in-text citation at all, then the period would come in between the word taught and the ending quotation marks. Again, that is only if there is no in-text citation. If there is an in-text citation, the period will always, always, always come after the citation. So what do we do if the source that we are quoting in our essay does not have an author? What goes in the in-text citation then? So let's say we are using a source like this, right? A page from a website with no author. If you look at the template and the example, there's no author listed. So the first thing listed in the in-text citation is the name of the title, right? The name of the source. So as we talked about last slide, what goes in the in-text citation is the first item listed in the citation on the works cited page and a page number. So in this case, because there's no author, the first thing listed is the title of the work, the title of the source. So that's what you're going to put in the in-text citation instead. However, you don't need to put the entire name of the article. Like, what if the name of the source you're including is like 15 different words? Then your in-text citation would be absolutely massive. All you have to do is put a shortened version of the name of the work you're citing in the page number. And when I say a shortened version, it just has to be enough that if your reader scrolled down to the last page of your essay and looked at your works cited page, they should be able to know what source you're talking about in that in-text citation. So in this example, we would use how to make. That's what I would do. I would do how to make and then whatever page number the quote came from. That's what I would put in the in-text citation. We haven't talked about titles yet and what titles go in italics and what titles go in quotes, but names of major works, so like the name of a novel, an album title, the name of a website, that's like a big work with smaller works inside. Large major works go in italics, and then smaller works go in quotes. You don't really need to understand that too much right now. But let's say in your in-text citation, in the citation on your works cited page, the title of your work is either going to be italicized or in quotes. It's going to be one of those two. When you put that into your in-text citation, when you put the name of the work in your in-text citation, you do not italicize it and you do not put it in quotes, even if it looks like that in your works cited page, okay? What goes in the parentheses, what goes in the in-text citation, should just be normal font like everything else. Not bold, not italicized, not in quotes, nothing. Even if it looks like that in your works cited page, okay? So for this example, a lot of the dread people feel about writing, though, is connected with how writing is taught. Same example we've been using. This comes from a book, a whole book. So in my works cited page, Mad Scientist Guide would be in italics because it's the name of a larger book. But in my in-text citation, it's just normal. It's not italicized whatsoever. All right, I know I just threw a lot of information at you with works cited page and in-text citations. It's a lot to remember, but they're super important in helping us avoid plagiarism. So it's really important for us to understand like the mechanics of these two things, okay? Like I said, I know I just threw a lot of information at you, so I expect you guys to have questions in class, and I look forward to answering them.